Welcome to another 10-minute learning with Brandon. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed or put notifications on, go ahead and do that wherever it's at. I'm not as technologically advanced to put it on the actual video just yet, but maybe with hard work and determination, I'll be able to get there sooner or later. But we're going to talk about a topic that really is pretty deep, and I think I may have put a little too much information in this, so I'm going to make it as basic as I can and just try to go over some of the highlights of everything, but bear with me. Like I said, this is a lot because we're going to talk about neonates and persistent pulmonary hypertension of that neonate, and yeah, it'll be good. I'm kind of excited, but we'll call it PPHN. It's a serious condition that's affecting newborns with high blood pressure in the lungs vessels. And we're going to talk about how that kind of works, how we can fix it, some of the future type of things to look forward to, and we'll try to do a little conclusion as well. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we do need to know a little bit about how the newborn's circulatory system is, and I'm just going to kind of read through this. I felt like this was actually pretty good. I apologize if I do not pronounce things correctly. I need to do better, and I should practice things a little bit more, and maybe I will start doing that. But here we go. So there's two major shunts, the ductus arteriosus and the foramen ovale. So the ductus arteriosus connects the pulmonary vein. Here we go, it's right here. The pulmonary artery to the aorta, and it's bypassing the lungs. The foramen ovale allows the blood to come from the right atrium right into the left atrium. So that's kind of where that happens. The ductus venosus, directs blood from the umbilical vein to the inferior vena cava. So we're talking about going here to the inferior vena cava, right there, and bypassing the liver, and then the blood returns to the heart via the umbilical vein, and it is ensuring oxygen-rich blood is supplied to the fetus. So that's before birth. After birth, the ductus arteriosus constricts and allows the redirecting of blood to the lungs for oxygenation, and then also the foramen ovale closes, isolating the oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood within the heart, and makes it to where your four-chamber heart starts working. So then down here after birth, the ductus venosus degenerates and forms the ligates itself pretty much. So stops that, and the inferior vena cava now carries only deoxygenated blood from the lower body back to the heart. So these changes are crucial for the transitioning from fetal to neonatal circulation, and ensures the proper oxygenation of the blood through the lungs and normal cardiovascular function. So that's what happens, and we're going to talk about what happens when those vessels don't behave. All right, so this is the one that I'm going to kind of skip through just a little bit. This picture is just kind of there to show you how the nitric oxide works and goes into the different parts of the cells. So you can kind of follow along and look. But so the nitric oxide's a gas that can be inhaled and has various roles in the body, and especially in the lungs, and that's why we use it to help out with PPHN. So you have your type 1 alveolar cells. These cells make up the walls of the alveoli. As you can see here, they're tiny air sacs in the lungs where the gas exchange from oxygen and carbon dioxide go back and forth. So then you have your type 2 alveolar cells, and these are the cells that produce surfactant, and that's a substance that helps keep your alveoli open that are in your lungs. Very important. If you don't have surfactant, things do not go well. We can deliver surfactant though, but that's not what we're going to talk about. Maybe a different video. So the action of the nitric oxide in the lungs. When you have the nitric oxide inhaled, it enters into the alveoli, those small sacs in the air sacs in the lungs. And the presence of O2 and nitrogen oxide, NO2, nitric oxide can form reactive nitrogen species, which kind of can mess with things, along with reactive oxygen species. So you have RNS and ROS. And ROS is the one that causes a lot of problems and can cause constriction if you have too much of it, all that kind of stuff. So we won't talk too much more about that, but once your nitric oxide crosses into the blood vessel, the vascular space, it can be inactivated by the hemoglobin in the red blood cells, and that's just the protein that's in those red blood cells to help pull oxygen and take it throughout the body. So it kind of inactivates that if you have, too much. But so the interactions of nitric oxide in the lungs and blood vessels help regulate various processes, including the dilation of blood vessels, which actually can improve the oxygen delivery and reduce inflammation. So if it's really constricted, it'll open that bad boy up. Here, let's go over here. Really constricted and then open, right? Okay. So that's really how a lot of those type of things go. So this is just kind of a study that's been used with the LAM model for persistent pulmonary hypertension of the newborn. So let me just look here. So in PPHN, there's an increase in these ROS chemicals, if you will, in the lungs. They damage cells and tissues, making it harder for the lungs and the heart to function properly and do what they need to. So scientists have studied this condition using the LAM model, which is helpful. The reason they use that is because the lamb's heart and lungs are similar to those of the human babies. And by having that similarity, we're able to kind of test things out and do things better the next time. So it helps us understand the oxidant stress, how much oxidant stress plays a role in significant PPHN. So but it also kind of contributes to how challenging it is to treat this stuff. So the more nitric oxide that you give, you can have, kind of a rebound effect if you pull it away too soon, or, if they just have too much. So kind of something you have to keep on top of. All right. So we're going to talk about how some of these things are made a little bit and what can help kind of get rid of these ROSs. So a major source of ROS is an enzyme that's called NADPH oxidase. And by having that, it's kind of the byproduct is the ROS. And we have something that can combat it called SOD, and that's the body's defense mechanism. So the defender is called superoxide dismutase, or just call it SOD. So its job is to neutralize ROS that's running around, and it's preventing them from causing damage. But whenever you do have PPHN, the activity of SOD is reduced, so then you just don't have those little fighters to help inactivate the ROSs that are running around, and then you're just back to having those problems. So, if you have PPHN in these newborns, that's kind of a double whammy where you'll have more ROS that's being produced by the NADPH oxidase, and then fewer of these ROS molecules or chemicals, whatever you want to call it, being neutralized by the SOD because it's being reduced because of that. So it contributes to a lot of challenges, and managing and treating this PPHN makes it a little hard. So you have to really take care of these patients. All right, so one way that we can help combat this is by giving a lot of oxygen, so 100% oxygen, but that has its own problems. Hyperoxia means that the patient has too much oxygen and it ends up being toxic. It's like oxygen toxicity, if you will. But for newborns, it's a little more specific, a bad thing, because it'll mess with their eyes and their ears and causing blindness and deafness. So the longer you have somebody exposed to 100% oxygen, worse thing it is. And it's kind of the same with adults when it comes to that. Anything above 60% for adults is not real good. You just don't have, your just lungs don't hold on to that, and it just kind of messes with things. So, you have to kind of weigh and measure where you're going to go and get your bang for your buck. All right, I pulled this picture up just because when I typed in the little I and NO for your inhaled nitric oxide, this is the picture that came up. So, I mean, I just thought it was funny, but maybe it'll be a screen grabber. I don't know. So INO helps to relax the blood vessels in the lungs. And we showed you that picture earlier. Opens those bad boys all the way up so that you can put blood flow through there, and oxygenation and exchange will happen a lot easier. The other thing is you can do treatments of, phosphodiesterase. I just screwed that up, but that's all right. So PDE inhibitors, so your medications like Viagra and Cialis, those kind of things, they were actually being studied for their effects on your pulmonary hypertension for adults. And then they had the side effects of helping erectile dysfunction. So it's just kind of funny that drug is mass produced now for erectile dysfunction because it was kind of a side effect for this, but it was kind of originally studied for help in this kind of thing. So that is another thing that you can do instead of nitric. You can do these PDE inhibitors to help relax those vessels that are constricting. So there's both therapies can be effective, but they have their limitations. So your INO not going to work for all babies, and PDE inhibitors have their own side effects too. So you have to, again, your pros and cons, trying to figure out what's best for that patient in particular. And then, we talked about SOD, and of course came up with this picture, so I thought might as well do that. So it's an important enzyme, and if they can make it to where we can help the patient produce more of that, that might help combat some things. So it'll help reduce your ROS and maintain the availability of nitric, which is going to be crucial for blood vessel relaxation. It'd be great for us to get the body to produce its own elements instead of us giving medications that have side effects, that have problems. And then there was also a recombinant human SOD that can help with babies with the PPHN. So they show that it can improve oxygen levels and reduce oxidative stress that happens in animal models. So there's hopes that it'll be a better treatment in the future. And that's, I think, with a lot of things with medicine, you always want to have something that's going to be better. And so we're always looking for that scientific study, all the things that are coming from these journals and these studies to see what would be better. So kind of right into that, we have a lot of good things for the future, and there's a lot of ongoing research about oxidative stress and PPHN. So there's lots of discoveries that are on the horizon, and we just need to really look at these advanced antioxidant therapies that I think can help better manage these babies with PPHN. And then just kind of real quick wrapping up, we understand how PPHN develops and where it comes from and where it's located in the body. Just the role of these oxidant stress, reactive oxygen species, how our body takes care of it. Maybe we can wrap those up to be able to benefit the patient more naturally. But we use inhaled nitric oxide right now and the PDE inhibitors, as well as 100% oxygen, but all of those things have their side effects and their problems. But really looking for that superoxide dismutase. And yeah, I think that kind of covers it. Definitely if you have questions or comments, you can tell me I'm wrong too, but any kind of interaction in the comment section would be great. Appreciate it. Just get a discussion going, talk about maybe some of the other things that you may want to hear about. I think this is definitely is interesting for me to kind of go over this and find more information out and try to at least present it in a way that's not too crazy. I know I need to work on that, but yeah, let's have the conversation in the comments. We'll see you in there, and I hope that you learned something and things go well for you. So have a good night. Thanks for hanging out with me in another 10-minute learning with Brandon, and don't forget to subscribe and get notifications. Definitely comment. Let's have a bunch of information. We can talk about whatever. All right, have a good night.